In today's video, we're back with some updated NHL trade rumors, and we're looking at the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Vegas Golden Knights. And that's coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, there's still lots of trade chatter going around the NHL, all kinds of talk. Things are kind of at a standstill right now for a lot of moves. Largely, I think, due to the RFA market coming to a standstill. Obviously, today's the cutoff here for player-elected salary arbitration. Team-elected salary arbitration is not far away. We're finally, hopefully, going to see some movement here within the RFAs here shortly, which should open things up and maybe get some more trade activity, and we'll see some of these rumors actually come to fruition here. But let's get started first with the Oilers. Now, as we know, they've been looking to move Jesse Puljujarvi, but only for the right price. They did give him a qualifying offer, and he's also threatening to go back and play in Europe if he doesn't get a fresh start and gets traded somewhere else. Now, I did see a report that the Los Angeles Kings had checked in on him. This comes from Dennis Bernstein of the Fourth Period, and he indicated that when the Kings checked in on Puljujarvi, that they wanted to attach the contract of Milan Lucic to him in order to make the deal. So it looks as though the Oilers might not be just wanting like picks and prospects back in return. Many earlier felt around the draft that if somebody was willing to offer a first or second round pick, maybe a Khabib prospect or something to that effect, that they might make the deal. But right now it looks as though they're kind of playing for a hard bargain here, looking to move that Lucic contract along with Puljujarvi, basically using Jesse as the sweetener as far as Lucic goes. So obviously for LA, they've already got enough players that are aging and don't have great contracts as it is. So that was a hard stop, a definite no on that front. Talks never went any further. So it looks as though the Oilers might be trying to go down that road. If anybody else wants to inquire on Puljujarvi, they might have to take Lucic as well, or they may not move him. They also seem content to let him play in Europe if that's what he decides to do here. So it doesn't sound like they're in really any kind of hurry to actually make the trade, and are going to be looking for a little bit more here perhaps than many of us might have originally thought. Now, looking at the Vegas Golden Knights and Nikita Gusev, apparently a talk around the league is that there's a lot of interest showing here, as many as 8 to 10 teams, including teams like Montreal, Ottawa, New Jersey, even Columbus to an extent as well. But there's lots of teams with the cap space to afford to pay what he's looking for. He's believed to be looking for a 2-year contract right around $4 million per year. I mean, Gusev is arguably, probably the best player to come out of the KHL in some time. He does draw some comparison to Artemi Panarin. And if you look at his career in the KHL, he actually had performed better than Panarin did prior to him coming over to the NHL as well. So many think that he really could be a game-breaking type of winger here, and that many teams really should give him a shot and take the chance. He's a little bit older like Panarin was, so he's certainly a more mature hockey player. He has tons of skill, and Vegas right now is up hard against the cap and just don't have the room to give him what he's looking for here. So obviously they're either going to have to move him or some other players to make the space to do it. And so far, the rumors that have it that they will move Gusev rather than make the space for him, which really, in my opinion, I would probably think they might regret doing down the road. I mean, obviously, they could look at moving guys like a Cody Eakin or Ryan Reeves, somebody who's not necessarily a top 6 forward, but really Gusev could very well be that on a lot of other teams, and they might regret moving him down the road, but it looks as though that's the road they're going to go down here. But really, he's a possibility here to be a game breaker. With Vegas' salary cap situation, they really wouldn't be able to take much of anything back that would go on the NHL roster immediately, so they're likely looking for picks and prospects. So obviously a lot of the teams we've been talking about here, like Montreal and Ottawa and other teams that have lots of cap space, would be a prime time place for him to go. Like I said, New Jersey, Colorado, Columbus, maybe even Carolina to an extent. They're all possibilities here as well. Short-term contract, $4 million might prove to be quite valuable here with what he might be able to bring if he's given an opportunity, especially on some of these teams where he might be able to grab like a top 6 forward role as well. So we'll see if the Vegas Golden Knights do proceed to move him, but it is believed around the league that he's getting a ton of interest, and they should have plenty of options to trade him here sooner than later. Now, next up here, I want to take a look at the Vancouver Canucks. Now, before we get too far into the Canucks, I want to take a look at their salary cap situation. If you take a look at it here, they really don't have a lot of salary cap space left. They still have some players to sign here. They still have to sign Brock Besser, Nikolai Goldobin as well, and they don't have a ton of room here. In my opinion, the Canucks have made a lot of questionable signings between last year in free agency and this year as well, and really I am also concerned about their long-term ability to look after their younger players. Like last year we saw them add guys like Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel and Tim Schaller, and this year we've seen Tyler Myers and Jordy Ben. They're adding a lot of players for a fairly significant amount of money that are, certainly not exactly young and not exactly, top players. Like they're mostly role players or, bottom half defensemen here. So really, I just certainly question a lot of the moves that Jim Benning is making. But the rumors around the Canucks right now is that they'd like to be able to free up some cap space, which is going to become a necessity here to get Brock Besser signed. And a couple of players, which is not going to be any surprise here, would be Louis Eriksson and veteran forward Brandon Sutter. Now, of course, they both have a form of a no trade clause, which complicates things here as well. Obviously, the previous reports on Eriksson is they were considering either swapping with Edmonton for Lucic or going to Calgary for James Neal or any of those, like a bad contract for bad contract. But if the Canucks do that, they're not going to free up any space by doing so. So obviously, that's really not really going to be a great idea for Vancouver. And if you look at Brandon Sutter, he makes a little over $4 million per year, but he's more like a third line center right now in his career. He only has a couple years left on his contract. Moving him might not be completely impossible here, but really it's going to become a necessity here for Vancouver, and they have a lot of players under contract that they're going to have to move out some of these veterans so that the more of their young players can get even more opportunity and be able to be signed to their extensions here when they're needed. I mean, and if you got younger players like Pettersson and Hughes, they're going to need new contracts in the short term, and we're not expected to see a whole lot of a salary cap increase next year. We're probably going to get a similar raise that we did this year. In 2 years' time, it should go up more, hopefully, is what the rumors are based on a new US TV deal coming into play and whatnot, and potentially a new CBA in effect as well. So I guess we'll see what happens with the Canucks, but really they are in a position where they've been one of the worst teams in the NHL over the past number of years. They've had a lot of higher first-round picks, which they've done okay with selecting their players, but now they're in a cap problem, and they're not even in a spot where they've been making the playoffs here. So this is clearly going to become an issue as a lot of their younger players continue to develop and earn these raises. They're not even at a spot where they're contending or anywhere near it, and they already have a cap problem. Personally, I don't think the Canucks and Jim Benning have done a very good job managing the salary cap. If you look at a lot of the veteran contracts they've added here, you could be able to make an argument that in some ways they make the team a little bit better, but they also make the team in a higher risk position when it comes to their cap. So I'm not sure that it's really overall worth it. Adding veterans for the right price is generally a good idea, but in these cases, I just think the Canucks have overspent here on some of these veteran forwards. I know they're getting a lot of pressure from ownership to be like in win now mode. They give up a first round pick to bring in JT Miller, so they're certainly under the gun to be a better team, so that pick doesn't end up to be too high. And I'm just not confident that they can get there with the limited amount of space they have and all the veterans that they have in place here. So I guess we'll see. The Canucks, though, certainly want to move guys like Louis Eriksson and Brendan Sutter. They could look to move other players as well. I mean, Jake Virtanen's name has been out there before. They kind of added as a sweetener to the Eriksson contract. That scenario has been out there before. So I guess we'll see what happens here. But the Canucks need to shed some salary. Some veteran guys are possibly on the trading block here. But I think they're going to have a hard time doing it. They might have to add some other prospects to make it happen. So let me know what you think on the Vancouver Canucks. Has Jim Benning done a good job in managing that cap situation, or is he overspent on veterans and put them at risk to be able to pay their young players appropriately here over the next few years? So that is all the latest NHL trade rumors here for today. Of course, as always, want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future Top Shelf Hockey content. We cover all 31 teams with all the breaking news, so stay tuned here. We'll keep you all up to date on what's going on in the NHL. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.